Hi, welcome to day 4 of NOLA ILC. While everyone is joining us from the waiting room, just a few notes about the forum is being recorded and transcribed, and you can also turn on your closed captions on Zoom. Everything will be available through the NOLA ILC website. We already have day 1 and day 2's presentations up. So the rest of the presentations will be available by the end of the week. Just keep checking back. Um, we are still letting in some attendees. So if everyone can make sure that you're muted, your camera is off. This way the presenters will be highlighted. And then we will get started. All right, so I am Brandy Burbante, the Library Director at Nicholls State University, and this is day 4 of the NOLA ILC conference and our last day. We've had a great forum so far, and everything is available on the NOLA ILC website. A link to that will be put into the chat for you. Today we are gonna get started with Michael Truran from Loyola University, and he's discussing designing, implementing, and assessing an individualized research consultation program for graduate students. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Michael, if you're ready, and you can share, and I will get off of here. So everyone, you could put your questions into the chat, and Courtney is our chat monitor today, and she will make sure that your questions get answered. Take it away, Michael.
So, hello. I am Michael Truran. I am the Health Sciences Librarian at Loyola University New Orleans, and I'm here to talk to you today about designing, implementing, and assessing an individualized research consultation program for graduate students. So, here is our agenda for today. I'm going to start with talking about sort of my institutional context, the design of the study, the process of implementing it, and its initial findings. So, this is our health sciences graduate consultation model. It's a two-stage support model that we deploy for nursing and counseling graduate programs. It consists of a one-shot instruction session followed by required one-on-one research consultations, which with every student in the course cohorts. So we deploy this model in 2 courses. In nursing, we do it in scientific inquiry and translational research, which is sort of has been the beginning of their capstone research for their doctor of nursing practice degree. It's taught in one large asynchronous online section. It is a mix of local and distant students. Pretty much all the consultations are conducted by video via Zoom, although occasionally we'll get students who prefer to meet in person. And then the students will continue their capstone research and subsequent coursework. This is taught in the summer. The other course we deploy this with is for counseling. It's their research writing lab, which is a foundational class they take in their first semester in the program. There are 4 smaller sections of this that are a mix of in-person and well, in the past, it's been a mix of in-person and online synchronous. This fall is going to be taught as an online asynchronous course for the first time, which will be interesting. And even though these students are local, most of them still prefer to meet by Zoom. And this is taught in the fall. So the goal of the one-on-one consultations we do with these students is to confirm and reinforce competence and research skills, develop, refine, and judge the viability of their literature review topics. And these are students doing evidence-based research, so they can't really do anything if there's no evidence. And to develop strategies for collecting, retaining, and organizing what they find during their searches. I model I use rather a search strategy worksheet to sort of guide and model what we do in the sessions. You all can take a look at that worksheet yourselves with this QR code. You a few seconds for anyone who wants to take a look that way. And also I have it pulled up here. Um, so, it's a Google Doc. It's got a place for student research topics or questions. Um, Usually when we're going over the topic, I'll also talk to the students about what databases they're going to want to look in. This is usually pretty cookie cutter from course to course, but sometimes a student in nursing will have a question that might overlap with behavioral science. And so I might say I should look at psych info as well. And sometimes the counseling students might want to look at something where there might be clinical literature, and I might say, okay, check out Medline. Um, Model planning searches using a comprehensive search methodology. Um, we're an EBSCO, mostly EBSCO campus, so we're using their prefixes. And then this also has sections for recording successful searches. So we can say we're looking in, CINAHL Plus with full text, and then we can put in the search phrase we use, the URL to the search, and then also citations and hyperlinks for abstracts we want to pull out. And also, I just talked about. I do share this worksheet with students during the session so that they can collaborate on it and then keep using it or not after the session as they need. The last time I checked, about 40% of students showed evidence of continuing to use the worksheet after the session. I find that out just by looking in my folder and seeing. Um, I can put that link in chat. Ah, a good idea. That's not what I meant to paste. Actually, hang on. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Moving on. So yeah, I do share it with students. I just to figure out how many of them keep using it, I just look in the folder where I have all of them and see how many of them showed user modified at so and so date. Like I said, about 40% of students continue to use it after our meetings or show evidence of it. If they make a copy of the document that doesn't show up in the activity, and then anything they do to the copy, I can't see. So it could be more students are using it. Um, Anyhow, so questions I have about this program. Uh, do student research skills benefit from this one-on-one consultation? Are they continuing to use what they learn after our session or show evidence they could keep using what they learn after the session? Or do they just rely on what we do in the worksheet and don't continue to use anything? Um, and then because I'm using this worksheet, I am curious about what students' source management practices are before they meet with me, and do they change significantly afterwards? Does the worksheet influence their practice at all? When looking at existing literature on assessment of this kind of program, um, found that most assessments people do are about student confidence and feelings about their interaction with librarians rather than measuring impacts their actual skills. I did find one, oh, what's it called? Scoping review. I found one scoping review that showed that, only about more than 1% of academic libraries use any kind of skill assessment when assessing a consultation program. And I did find some of those same researchers did their own skills assessment in 2019, which is what I based my own instruments on. So I modified the instruments used by Sikora, Fournier, and Rebnar. We administered or designed this as a pre-test to administer before students meet with the librarian to get a baseline of where their research skills and competence are at before they meet with me, and then deliver post-test to see what they're like after they meet with me. So does our program impact student skills and competence? Here is another QR code. See if I can. There we go. That one looks like it will go in. So that's a folder to the instruments and rubrics that I used. And I'll take a look. Okay, so these instruments measure both sort of skills or competence and student competence. We measure actual skills by asking the students to in the survey instrument, which was a Qualtrics survey, both instruments. Sort of asked them to demonstrate several research skills, such as identifying keywords based on their own research topic. We decided to have students talk about their own research rather than using sort of a generic example topic. We asked them, so again, identify keywords. We asked them to use those keywords to compose their own search strategy. And then we also asked them to identify tools and resources they might use to find appropriate literature. So, what databases they're using or that they know to use. And also ask the students to sort of report in a long answer what their source management practices were like. And in terms of gauging student competence, that was asked by, rating from 1 to 10, 1 being not competent, 10 very confident. And again, ask them, how confident are you in your ability to find relevant sources, and then in their ability to retain and manage their sources. So example questions for each, what is the search strategy or search string you would use? And on 1 to 10, how confident are you in your ability to find relevant sources of information? The post-test repeats the same competency and competence measures with some additional ones. So in terms of, we added another, 1 to 10 about whether their meeting with the librarian met their expectations. And we also asked for the competence questions about finding information and managing information. We asked if the meeting with the librarian affected their competence. So yes, no for those. So in terms of implementing it, the pretest, so in both courses, the pretest was delivered after students had their one-shot instruction, but before meeting with me. There's another world in which I would have liked to deliver the pretest before even the one-shot instruction, but that just wasn't practical. In both courses, pretty much the first thing students do is have their one-shot instruction. And then the post-test was delivered after all students had their consultations. So, and talked about challenges timing the pretest. So the way that I delivered the pretest was mostly through the normal email communications I had with students. Um, I put a link to the survey instrument in confirmation emails for our one-on-one appointments, and then reminder emails I sent the day before we meet. I had had issues with students, forgetting or rescheduling appointments in previous years, and so I had gotten in this practice of making sure I do reminders. Additionally, the URL was posted to the survey instrument in their well, the URL to the survey instrument was posted in their Canvas course for each section. Now, I should say there's a bit of a difference in my confidence that students in each section um, receive the one-shot instruction before the meeting. For the counseling courses, that was either when I delivered the survey, the one-shot instruction was delivered either in person or synchronously online. So I knew with certainty that all the students had some FaceTime with me already in terms of that one-shot instruction. For the nursing courses, that class is asynchronous, so the instruction is delivered via video tutorials. So, in our one-on-ones, I can ask the students if they watch the videos, but I have no actual way of confirming that they did. So that might explain some of the later findings. In terms of challenges soliciting participation, um, in all cases, the instructors of record for these courses were informed that I was going to do the study, and were asked to help solicit participants. For nursing, I should say, for both of these courses, historically, there has been inconsistent instructors of record in terms of there might be a lot of turnover. They're very often taught either traded between ordinary faculty who only teach it for, one semester, then trade it off, or they're taught by adjuncts or by visiting assistant professors. Um, this time in nursing, the instructor was an ordinary faculty who was in their last semester at Loyola, and so my perceptions, they were kind of checked out. They didn't really, they acknowledged that I was doing the study, but didn't seem to do much to help me promote it. For counseling, the instructors were an ordinary faculty and a staff person who was adjuncting. So both people who have long-term commitment to the program, and they were both very enthusiastic about the study. And in fact, I have gone on to compose a scoping review with them, which we just submitted for publication. So it's produced an ongoing faculty relationship. Um, there was also a lack of incentive for the students. This kind of study has to be voluntary, and I wasn't able to offer any kind of sweetener like a gift card or, anything like that. Um, so completely voluntary. Um, the post test was also kind of challenging the time. So for the nursing cohort, again, I sent out an email about it to all the students after they'd all completed their research consultations. And that course is taught in the summer. So once I had finished all the consultations, I went on vacation for 3 weeks, and then sent out another reminder email when I got back toward the end of the semester, of the summer session. Um, on the other hand, for counseling, I was there the whole semester for the fall. Um, and so I was able to, target specific time and be more consistent with reminders. Um, for that class, I decided to time the post test at sort of just after their first draft of their lit review was done. So after they would have been, not just after our one-on-ones, but after they would have been hopefully applying all the lessons they learned in the one shot and in our one-on-one consultations. So in terms of participation, for the pretest in nursing, We got close to 30% participation in counseling, close to 42%, or first, sorry, close to 43% for the pretest. For the post-test, that dropped off significantly in both cohorts. So only 3 of 40 of our nursing cohort did the post-test, and 1154 counseling. And what's, I guess, consistent is the study I based this on also reported having difficulty recruiting participants. Although I think they wound up with 17 taking their post-test out of a cohort of like 400. So, and I guess I could say it was more successful than they were. In terms of measuring the results, so student confidence in research skills did show a lot of improvement. Coming into it, the sort of the consistent level of confidence in both cohorts was around a 6 out of 10. So sort of just middling, just on the positive side of middling. And then the students who answered the post-test all reported, confidence significantly higher. All of the respondents to the post-test cited the one-on-one consultation as a factor in their increased confidence. That was a yes/no question that was asked directly. That wasn't volunteered. But it's interesting to note. In terms of confidence in source management, the baseline for this was a little bit higher in the cohorts, and the sort of impact was still there, but a little bit less. And interestingly, in the post-test, sort of 3 respondents cited some sort of personal quality as contributing to their confidence and their ability to retain sources. As an example, several had some variation of saying, well, I'm tidy or I'm well organized. And then 9 of 14 cited the one-on-one consultation as contributing to their confidence and ability to manage sources. 3 of them directly mentioned the search strategy worksheet. Now, in terms of their expectations, so this is that last question we asked about, from 1 to 10, how did the one-on-one consultation meet your expectations? What's interesting is only 1 student sort of cited their satisfaction as being lower than 7. So as a cohort, they all seem pretty satisfied. I think this person rated it a 5, but even they said, I already know a lot of basic skills. It was nice to learn to better my search strings with ands and ors, which I love to be able to ask this person directly. Does that mean that you can use them better now, or you didn't know how to use Booleans before? Because that's still showing that they learned new skills or improved their skills from the one-on-one, even if they rated their satisfaction low. In sort of the free text responses, 4 of 14 of respondents mentioned some specific skill or practice that contributed to their satisfaction with their research consultation. So like the previous student who talked about ands and ors, other students talked about search strings or other specific skills, which is interesting in terms of these are people who are voluntarily saying, here's what I remember learning without really being prompted to. Now, in terms of measuring those skill improvements, so this is how I evaluated the keyword students identified for their research topics. So, if they didn't give any keywords, I rated them a 0. If none of their keywords seem to relate to their stated topic. So I'm comparing this to their self-reported research topic. So if the keywords don't seem to have anything to do with their actual topic, I gave it a 1. They made a response, but it wasn't anything that showed they actually knew what they were doing. Um, rated a 2 if their keywords didn't cover their entire topic. 3 if they did cover their entire topic, and then 4 if they included at least one synonym for a term. And here's how they did. So before they met with me, um, I should say there's, you know, somewhere like a 30% improvement here, right? Something important to note is that all of the counseling students reported having a research topic before our one-on-ones, and only 7 of the nursing students did. Um, I don't know if that is, well, I can speculate why that is. There's been a lot of sort of exciting changes in the nursing program at Loyola, and we recently started a nurse anesthetist program, and the students in that program this was the first section they're coming through, um, haven't done their clinicals yet. Whereas before in previous programs, they would have done that by now. So a lot of the anesthesia students weren't, I can report anecdotally, weren't very confident in picking topics, didn't know their field very well yet. And so I kind of think that's why the nursing students rated so much lower than the counseling in this case. Um, it's also the course is pitched as the start of their long-term capstone research, whereas the counseling students, this is a foundational course. So I think there's higher stakes the nursing students do. Um, was one explanation for this discrepancy. In terms of composing search strings, again, here's how we evaluated. So 0, no strategy given. 1, strategy does not include at least 2 major ideas. 2, it includes 2 major ideas, but omits or incorrectly uses Boolean operators. 3, it includes 2 different keywords with Boolean operator, and then 4, that with synonyms. And again, showed market improvement from before our one-on-ones to after the one-on-ones. And then in terms of selecting sources, again, 0s, no sources given. 1 is they don't really indicate they could identify a source that would have scholarly information. 2 is they name a sort of broad tool, multidisciplinary tool, like the concept of a scholarly database or Google Scholar. And then I gave them a 3 if they correctly named at least one subject database, journal, or platform. So I gave them a 3 if they, were able to say like PsycInfo or Medline, or if they were able to say, National Library of Medicine. In this area, before meeting with me, pretty consistently got a little less than a 1. After meeting with me, again, market improvement, but not quite what I'd like to see. And then for evaluating source management, I didn't identify a rubric for like evaluating their responses. But I did note down things that showed up a lot or that I found were interesting in their responses. So in both groups had around 50% reporting they use some sort of separate document to manage sources, so a Google Doc or a Word doc. Oh, yep, I'm almost at the end. And then um, a total of 6 in the pretest were cited using file organization. So, managing the actual files, PDFs and whatnot. Some students in the counseling mentioned annotation. And then sort of 9 in the pretest mentioned using multiple practices or describing their practices in multiple steps. And then in the post-test, interesting additions were several students mentioned using hyperlinks to keep track of either their searches directly or abstract pages. One student mentioned keeping track of successful search strings, and sort of similar number reported using multiple practices. Uh, and there's my sources that I've cited. And are there any questions?
Wow, thanks, Michael. That was so informative. I'm so intrigued and can't wait to hear more about this. If you have any questions or feedback or comments or discussion, feel free to unmute, put your video on, or type it in the chat. Courtney's our chat monitor, so she can read out the questions that you type. I'll just get us started with this. I'm curious to learn more about how you got the faculty to work with you on this. Like to get you so embedded that, you're
Oh,
doing these things.
for the program in general?
Yeah, like, or just to pursue this project.
Yeah. Oh, so for the program in general, it's sort for nursing, it sort of evolved organically, where I found that professors were telling their students to all meet with me one-on-one without informing me first. And so I would notice these huge spikes in nursing consultations at certain points in the year. And that got me just talking to them directly and being like, hey, can we formalize this? Um, and then for counseling, I inherited the practice from previous counseling liaisons. And I just sort of like brought over what I was doing with nursing by that point into working with counseling. So I don't know if the one-on-ones are exactly the same as the previous liaison was doing, but it was able to like transfer to practice. In
Mhm.
terms of soliciting participation, like I said, the nursing professor that summer session really didn't do anything to promote it. I think I lucked out with the counseling professors in that they were people who were very invested in the program and very interested in the research methodology I was doing, or that I was working with the students. Um, so yeah, I can't say there's like any particular thing that helped
Yeah, it sort of
solicit participation in
organically
the program.
happened.
It worked. I was really lucky, I think.
Yeah, it's good you had the faculty already sending students to
Yeah.
you. Will
I
has
think
a
it also.
question, and there's some questions in the chat too.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Let's.
this one is a two-parter.
Okay.
Am I correct that the consultations were required, but participation in pre and post test wasn't? If you want to go ahead and answer that
Yes.
first one.
Yes. So yeah, the one-on-one consultations are a requirement for the course as part of the student's grade. Um, and but the pre and post test is not required. Um, so this is just like part of the requirements or the legal requirements for human subjects research, where you're not allowed to compel participation in this kind of research. Um, if I was basing this on like grading of an actual assignment, it might be different, but because it was separate from their coursework, um, I couldn't like make professors require them to do the pre and post test.
Okay, and then the second part, is there any way that you can work with one or more faculty to make those assessments required as well?
Yeah, that same answer is I might be able to like do some assessment of like responses to actual assignments. Maybe I'm not familiar with legal requirements around that, but for this kind of research, I think even offering like extra credit for responding is kind of iffy.
Will, you have a question?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All
Yes.
right, great. Well, thank you so much for this talk, Michael. What great work you guys are doing over there. I have a few questions, but I'll just stick with one for now, and maybe raise my hand again if there's time later. Yeah, I was just wondering about whether and how these experiences in this research class and working with librarians, how students might draw on this after graduation in their careers. So I'm wondering if you've ever heard from a graduate who's maybe been able to use these research skills in treating a patient or learning about an emerging topic that they're facing. Yeah, and maybe if not, if there's any, maybe that, I mean, that would just be really interesting data to have. And yeah, I'll leave it there. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the answer is no. I haven't ever like had that kind of interaction with students after the program. What I have had is students who I've talked to in subsequent courses who have reported, using what they learned or using the worksheet for research in additional coursework. Especially counseling. It's like counseling, they're doing this at the start of the program, whereas nursing, they're like halfway through. Um, and also, I've had several students develop a practice of just like making, like, after these sessions, making a meeting with me anytime they have any research project, just to like check in. So, yeah, I can't say about life after school, but definitely like within the program, I've heard from students who keep using their skills.
Jerica, do you want to ask your question? Oh, we can't. You're muted.
Oops,
There you
sorry.
go.
It's Gekera, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gekera. I'm writing a note now.
Yes. So I'm just basically gonna put like a comment. So at Delgado, we have tons of nursing students. So I already know like the content that they have is just tedious. It's so much. And what I like about nursing information is that they get new information every year. So and that's like a very important tactic for your position. And I'm looking at your pretest questionnaire. I really like your pretest questionnaire because even if all students, we should ask, or do you feel confident in your research topic? Are you using your keywords? Those are type of the questionnaires that we should be asking each student. Are you using the correct keywords? The power that I see a lot of students are using, of course, AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, and things like that. And I know there's a strict policy. If I'm not mistaken, I think Loyola definitely have a very strict policy when it comes down to AI, and there are students that are pretty much going to use it. And I think what the real big goal is to get these students to trust the library more instead of trusting AI or trusting any other tactic that they have, and to just understand that this is nursing programs. They have so much information, like it's tons of information, important information, and they pretty much are going to these professors determine, of course. Okay, yeah, that's what I try to understand, and basically getting the nursing program to trust the library even more with information and accurate information. So that's just a comment that I want to say. I really do like your tactic, and I really like this questionnaire. I feel like we should all ask each student these questionnaires just so we can be able to build the trust with students.
Well, I mean, a lot of that questionnaire, comes from the work done by Sikora et al. So I want to emphasize that I made some slight changes to it, but I'm really mostly adopting their methodology. That said, in terms of like my work with students and AI, my own practice has just kind of been to not acknowledge it. I don't want to get in a situation where I'm, telling students a lot of don't do this. Um, I want to, model good practice, not talk about poor practice. Um, but also anecdotally, I've only really ever had one student who self-reported using AI in any way, and that was in the counseling course this no, it was in the nursing course this summer, so just like a few weeks ago. So I think for the most part, our students in these programs either aren't using them or aren't talking about using them, which I just like personally don't have the face time to devote a lot of time to talking about AI. But
Yeah, that's
Interesting things here.
interesting too, to bring up that reliance on AI. That could be something that ends up in your pre and post test questionnaires of they might find themselves after meeting with you and learning more about the library resources, relying less on AI than before. So that is an interesting point. I am curious if anybody else has any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But the way you administered these questionnaires and the work that it took for you to compile all the answers, were you doing it like in a Google form or something? Like, was there a way for you to automate getting these responses, or were you going like just one by one having to record
So
everything and analyze it?
yeah, so I used Qualtrics as the program for administering the surveys. And we have a institutional account through Loyola. And then in terms of processing the data, um, I'm using Excel, right? It's for the like things that are quantitative. I've at this point I've just done very basic like averaging results. Um, and then I've also hand coded a lot of the text responses, which is how I'm able to say, for students cited specific skills, that sort of thing. So yeah, I haven't used a lot of automation outside of just what's in Excel for that.
Thanks. I'm
Yes.
always interested in that. So yeah, there's another question if
Yeah.
Courtney wanted to.
Um,
Yeah. Will,
from
I did get IRB approval for the survey.
this is from Will again. Do you all have to get IRB approval to conduct these surveys? And do the students expect their responses will remain anonymous? And if so, how do you maintain their anonymity?
Yes. So yeah, yes, I did get IRB approval. In terms of maintaining anonymity, I didn't collect any demographic information at all. So I didn't ask, their age or um, any of that kind of information. Um, the only identifying information that got collected was, I can tell which cohort the responses are from because I administered them as separate surveys in Qualtrics. And their topics, research topics are, unique to each person. Um, in terms of like ensuring their anonymity, I was, part of that human research's sort of methodology is you have to, upfront tell students what the potential risks are, whether they're minimal or not. And for this, there's minimal risk of minor identifying information getting out if there's enough in what they're reporting. Um, but I was also like very frank about my data management practices in terms of like who will have access to the responses, how am I keeping track of them, what am I going to do with the data after I'm done processing it, that sort of stuff. So it's all being kept on you know um, our Google Drive, and I'm doing some of the data processing on my laptop. So um, I'm not I'm sharing the raw data with people outside of me, basically not at all.
Yeah, that's always important to think about too. Getting that IRB. Thanks for that question, Will. We are wrapping up 1 minute before we start our next presentation. Any final well, I say final, any last questions for Michael at this point? I mean,
And
you
if
can feel
you,
free to put questions in the chat for Michael
yeah,
after if you think of them.
and also feel free to shoot me an email if you have questions.
Awesome. You'll see Courtney put some feedback form links. Those will pop up throughout today. So Michael, if you want to stop sharing,
Yes.
that way we can turn it over to our next presenters. Um, so attendees, yes, please take a look at the feedback form and at the end of today's session, submit those feedback forms to us. We have Will Buckingham and Dustin Dirickson from Delgado Community College. Are you guys ready to tell us about core computer skills at a 2-year college library? Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to Dustin and Will for their lightning talk.
All right. Well, thank you, Brandy, and thank you all for being here today. It's been a real good week, and I see we've got a pretty healthy turnout again today with 45 people or so. So thank you for being here. And a big thanks to NOLA ILC. This information literacy forum is a great opportunity for us to hear about new ideas, and in this case, for Will and I to share something we've been working on. And it kind of connects to yesterday. I want to spotlight again the presentation, the great discussion that was had by Holly Goodwin and Connie Miltron about digital literacy. And it kind of segues to what we're going to talk about in our lightning talk today, which is an initiative that we've put in place here at Delgado Community College. And while Will and I have kind of worked together to put this on its feet and get it rolling, there's obviously some thanks to our colleagues like Courtney Stortz and Daniel DuPont and Caitlin Cooper and Gekera Gilmore. We've had a lot of discussions about the needs that we see here at a community college. And for those of you out there who are also working in higher ed, particularly at community colleges, you might feel some of the same things that we're feeling anecdotally. So I'm going to jump right in and share some of the slides that we've put together. And hopefully this is all coming together here. So we have developed a core computer skills workshop. And so it's something that it's still, we're looking to improve it, but we got it going last summer. And so Will and I kind of were talking about the needs that we saw at the circulation desk and looking around on campus and finding there's not a whole lot of support for students in this regard. We thought it was an opportunity for the library to step up and enact some type of a program on a semesterly basis that could help students. So let me look at this end of year report from 2025, which was published on our website, authored by our chancellor. And we can see that at Delgado, the average age of students is 27.3. So if you can imagine that bell curve, and at the apex is 27.3, there's a lot of students. We're talking thousands of students that are on the right side of that bell curve. So we have a lot of students who are non-traditional. And specifically, if you look at the end of this quote, you can see that 13% of our student population is 40 and above. That's not including community students. We also have a healthy population of community students who come in for various needs to the library. And of course, we are open for that as well. But this 13% plus the community students tend to be, again, speaking anecdotally, what we find are the student, that demographic that needs that assistance. I think a lot of people returning to college, they've not experienced working with a learning management system such as a Blackboard or a Canvas. And these LMS systems can be daunting if you've never worked with them. And so that's one aspect that will discuss a little bit more as we go into the specifics. But just to give you an overview of what we're facing at our community college, we wanted to reach out and offer something for them. So we developed a basic computer skills workshop. The first, you can see this is the inaugural promo that we sent out on our social media. We posted it on our college calendar. We would put it in email newsletters to faculty. Even the Office of Student Life would send this out in a mass email to all the students at Delgado. This was back in October of last year. And so we did all the typical promotional strategies, but I want to highlight that last bullet point that you see. It says identify and invite. And we curated a list based on circulation desk interactions, these individual direct interactions. And we made a point to talk to all of the librarians, full-time and part-time, who were at our circulation desk and see the needs firsthand to look for those students who seem to be struggling. Maybe they don't quite have that tech savviness that might be required to be successful in their coursework. And we just wanted to reach out to them directly and say, hey, we're going to offer this workshop. Would you be interested? And invariably, they all say yes. And so we get their email, we get their contact information, their phone number, their name. They willingly give us this and say, please invite me. And so that's what we did. We identified individuals one by one. We invited them to this workshop, and they showed up. And of course, that list just grows with time, and we keep that list ongoing, and we see a lot of repeat customers, as it were. As we moved into the spring, we enhanced it a bit more, learning from our first go round. We tweaked the title, and we call it Core Computer Skills now. And we offered this in February. And actually, we offered it a couple of times in the spring semester. And we're just looking to continue to enhance this offering and see how we can move it into the future. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Will Buckingham now, who's going to discuss some of the specifics of what we covered.
Yeah, great. Yeah, one thing I'll just point out to start with is like this all emerged from our experiences at the circulation desk, engaging with patrons face to face. And Delgado Libraries has a very, very collaborative work culture. And it was just such a pleasure and such a rewarding process that's resulted in real tangible benefits for our patrons, getting to work with Dustin and building this course out of those experiences. And yeah, it all started with me having patrons asking for help with these kinds of problems. Sometimes in Windows, your web browser icon shortcut doesn't appear for some reason. And that's a whole new skill that a new computer user needs to learn, is how to go into File Manager and find a program or an app, right? Basic web searching, emailing, just navigating an inbox. We've also gotten into basic email composition with some students, like Dear Professor is a great way to start an email. Things that really build a foundation for success at a two-year college. And a huge one is Canvas, navigating the LMS and uploading assignments. That's just a really tricky thing a lot of times. Oftentimes students need to change file formats. And the interface, we're using Canvas at Delgado. The interface for uploading assignments is not straightforward. There's this rocket ship and people get confused. And basic word processing skills. And the class, Dustin and I ran the last one together as a team. Going forward, Dustin's going to talk about where we're headed with this, but we're thinking about trying to bring in more people, more volunteers, because really having one-on-one time with each student in the class has proven to be really effective, because each person is getting hung up on different minor steps in these processes. And yeah, that's great. I'm going to pass it back to Dustin. All right.
All right. Thanks, Will. So just a few statistics to let you know kind of where we started and where we are. Again, starting in the fall, we just had a couple of student inaugural kind of session to get started with this thing, but it started to grow. We started to identify more and more of these students that needed that help, that were struggling. And in the spring, we quadrupled. We got more than that. We had 9 people show up, which is still, single digits. We're a long way from, I think, meeting the need, but we're offering the service and people are starting to hear about it. And the 2 people who came in the fall came back in the spring. So we're getting repeat visits to these workshops. They don't see this as just a one shot, hey, I got that class, I don't need to go back. No, in fact, they're coming back with more questions. And there's only so much you can cover in a 1 hour or 50-minute session. So obviously there's more ground to tread and there's more topics to cover. So it's been really encouraging to see these students come back and ask more questions and seek more guidance. It shows that they valued the first session enough to come back. And unfortunately, in April, we had it. So in the spring, we doubled. We decided to offer 2 sessions instead of one. And then in April, we had students waiting in the lobby foyer area to enter our classroom. And thank you, Entergy, the power went out. So we had to cancel that session, and 2 or 3 students waiting were unable to attend. It was unfortunate, but that was our intention, was to double the amount of sessions. We had people coming and waiting to attend that session. So we see that this can definitely continue, and we're looking for the next academic year to take it to the next step. So in the fall, on September the 3rd, we've got a special program set up, and we're really hoping for some good turnout. And before I get to that, I do want to mention something about the approach. Will was talking about some of the specifics. Again, going from 2 to 9 and really helping them meet their needs for college success. But notice that third point, it's informal, it's direct, and it's personal. And I think these 3 kind of adjectives are key to how you, or how we feel we need to approach this type of course. Yesterday, it was mentioned in the digital literacy presentation that some of the options for assistance were also online, which is kind of, I think it was mentioned, it was ironic, right? That you would have a Zoom session to help a student figure out their technological issues. It's like they may have a hurdle just getting onto Zoom. So we decided that this should be a face-to-face opportunity. People can come in and sit down in a computer lab, and we can assist them one-on-one. Yes, we do hybrid type sessions the rest of the semester, but for this particular seminar, this workshop, we felt like it was better just to offer it as a face-to-face opportunity. And I think the students were appreciative of that. So we're bringing up, I'll close with this because we're almost out of time, a library day. And this is, I've been at Delgado about 4 years, and this is the first time I've experienced us doing something like this. Maybe it was something in the past, but we're offering this full day of instructional sessions and library tours, but we're also having computer assistance in a dedicated classroom. So it's walk-ins. You can stay as long as you need. We have several of the librarians here at Delgado who are volunteering their time to come in. And we're, of course, we have to work out the logistics of staffing the circulation desk for an open library, but we're having plenty of support for these walk-ins for computer assistance. So looking forward to that. More to talk about probably in the future as this develops, but that's where we are now. So thank you for listening. And I know we don't have much time, but if there is a question or comment, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Yes, if anybody has a question or feedback or anything, this was great. Definitely want to hear more about this, and I hope y'all are planning to present at Luck or something, a longer thing, to go into more information about your workshops. If there are any questions in the chat, Courtney will read them out so that our transcript can pick it up. But, or you can just, Jared, oh, yes.
Gekera has a question.
Gekera.
So I don't know why I can't show my screen, but just to piggyback with Dustin, I know working at Delgado, we do have students who actually just haven't been in school for a very long time. Some of these students are probably just entering back college like years and years later. Some of these students may be older, some of these students may be younger, but they are a little bit ignorant when it comes down to computers. And the biggest thing now in technology and now being into schools is computer literacy. And I see so many students struggle when it comes down to computers. And as an older generation Z librarian, sometimes I feel like I'm a little too fast for certain patrons. Like, oh, maybe should I slow down? In my head, I may think, oh, they should know this, but I have to understand, computers didn't come around, throughout the whole period of life. Computers came around later on, and there are some people that are just now navigating computers who are actually struggling in classes. They're not saying that they can't achieve these things. What's holding them back is computer literacy. They cannot navigate, understand the computer. And I really think what Dustin is doing is such a great, smart move for people who just really not computer people. And unfortunately, we live in today's time where you have to do things on a computer now. And it's just a big help for all. And yeah, that's just my comment. And I can't wait to do this at work. And I'm very excited. And I think Dustin created this best idea for everyone.
Bonnie?
Yeah, I think this is wonderful. That's so exciting that you guys are doing this. We've tried stuff like that here at Zoella, and we just have not gotten our students just don't show up. Like, because a lot of our students, like, they're on campus. If they have one class a day or two classes a day, they're in their class and they're out of the way. So they show up in the library 10 minutes before they have an assignment that's due and they want help. But I think we're gonna try it again. My question is, do you guys have any, like, I don't want to say pushback or cooperation with your IT department? So, like, one issue we have with IT is we get students who come with their personal devices that want help because they need that help in that moment. Our IT department's policy is they don't touch personal devices. They kind of tell the students they're on there. They even have like a blanket, they don't support Chromebooks and they don't support Macs. And like our students are going to buy Chromebooks because they're the least expensive, or they have a Mac from somewhere. And if I have a student that comes up to the desk and they are in front of me and asking for help, I'm not going to tell them no. But I also know I'm like kind of breaking the rules. But do y'all have any? There's also like they don't want us to step on their toes, but the students are coming to us because the students know we're going to help them in that moment. And when they go to them, they get told we don't support this. So kind of, do y'all have a relationship with them? Do they have anything to say about the work that you guys are doing?
Dustin, can I let you field the IT question?
Sure.
I'd like you to speak to your initial comment, which is that for the outreach engagement, like was almost every person who came, this were from face-to-face interactions. So we have the benefit that the library at the City Park campus is like a social hub, and a lot of students like to come in and work there. So we have that working for us. And it was all about building face-to-face relationships with these patrons. Yeah.
Well, just speaking, Connie, to your question, I'll be honest, I did not reach out to our Office of Information Technology to ask if it would be stepping on their toes. Our OIT doesn't have a physical help desk. They have an email, which is, well, you have to be able to access email to reach out, or they have a telephone number. And from what I understand, talking with OIT over the years with various tickets we put in, they're very busy and they're trying just to keep everything running on our 4 different campuses and sites. So for us to do something like this, I have not heard any negative pushback or any comments that, oh, wait a second, you're out of your lane. You don't need to be handling these things. I've heard nothing of the sort. Of course, it's only been a year, so maybe we'll see how it goes going forward. But I don't feel like we really need to seek that type of permission. When it comes to a student's device, most of the time, well, we're using a computer lab. So we're using the college computers in that lab. If a student were to bring a device, that's fine by, I think, Will and I. But we like for the students, and you mentioned some of this yesterday with your colleague, Holly, we don't really touch the keyboards. We like the student to be in charge. We want to facilitate that navigation. We want to help them in their efforts to build confidence. And to do that, they need to control the mouse, they need to control the keyboard and learn through that practice. So we feel we're just facilitators. And if they do have, let's say at the end of the day, a student's password is not functioning, well, obviously we can't fix that. And we do obviously recommend they reach out to OIT's virtual help desk. So I feel like we have maybe we need to delineate that exactly a little more carefully, but as it stands in my mind, and I think Will would agree with me, we just want to help them navigate and operate LMS and do what we can within the confines of our system. Outside of that, we'll gladly hand that over to OIT.
Do I have time? Just one really brief comment. Is it in our experience, I think it holds true that the students who bring a laptop, they actually don't need the kind of help that we're offering. I think everyone who's really benefited from it are people who are using the library computers and maybe have a desktop at home.
That's a good point. I know for us, real quick before we go to the next one, because I thank you, Dustin, for bringing us back to yesterday and relating your talk with Connie and Holly's, because I thought that too when I was reading over yours, that this fits together so well. We have IT here at Nichols, and our relationship's not horrible, but we have the same thing. Students come to us with their own devices. Usually it's a navigation thing, or how do I work a program, or not necessarily something broken, or like we can't do password stuff. So it seems like our IT is more fixing it, and then we're more like trying to say like we're the literacy of it. We're going to help navigate or show them how to, like, which button's the right one to click of something that's already working. Just they don't know what to do. So I don't know if that could help Connie with separating the library from the IT, as you guys fall into the digital literacy. IT is more of something's not working properly like it should, that is supposed to be run through your university. But yeah, I think that's just such a great discussion. Definitely digital literacy. Somebody, I hope this is on the Lewis Users Conference agenda for us to do. If not, somebody here, submit your proposals for luck. We're gonna move on to the next one. Oh, our last one of the forum. Save the best for last, right, Gekera? Okay, we have Gekera Gilmore, and I'm so sorry I always keep messing up your name. I think it's because I grew up with someone named Jerica, so it's just in my head. Gekera, from Delgado. Delgado and Loyola representing a lot at this year's conference. We appreciate y'all so much. So documenting memory, a digital archive of New Orleans school desegregation. I will turn it over to you.
Hello, my name is Gekera Gilmore. I'm going to share my screen, and I am working on the title. It's in the makings. I think I like the original one. I might want to change it again. I don't know. That's just the Gemini in me. I don't know. I just always changing things. But for the original one, it was historical Black high school yearbooks during segregation. We're going to work on that title. But hi. So I'm gonna just introduce myself a little bit. So yes, I work at Delgado, and I also work at Loyola in the weekends. That's pretty cool. So base thing is what I am is I am not only an adjunct, I'm not only learning commons at Loyola University. I'm also a master's degree student. And during my last semester, well, no, that was spring. In the fall semester, I decided to do an archival class. Right now, I am still a rookie into the library world. I am still finding myself into library information. Don't know exactly what I specifically want to do. I love reference. I love working at the circulation desk. I love library instruction. But one thing I would say, archive is like a big hobby or a big interest to me. Shout out to Janine at Loyola University. She shows me a lot of archival back upstairs during the summer, and she tells me a little bit of everything I needed to know. She shows me a lot of cool things, and I would say as archive is more of a hobby, and I would definitely can't wait till I show you guys how I started this, what definitely intrigued me to do this. And I'm gonna just get started. Let's just get started. And just to let y'all know, I do talk just a little bit too often, so I might get just a little excited. So please let me know if I'm over time, because I do get excited. I really do. So I want to prove to you guys and show you guys that yes, this was an actual final project. I did this in the fall of 2025. This was my final project in the class. I had a perfect score out of 600. My professor told me, very good, you finished strong here. This was everything that I needed. It definitely boosted my little ego. You know, a perfect 600 out of 600. I wouldn't show you guys anything where if I had a few points down, everything has to be perfect, because if I have this 600 out of 600, why wouldn't I want to share the world and share to you guys my work and what I have done? So let's just start off at home. Let's start off with my mission statement. So with this, everybody also knows, if you're from New Orleans, everybody will ask, what school did you go to? You know, what school did you go to? It doesn't really matter who you are. I feel like if anybody from New Orleans asks a person, what school did you go to? You would specifically know exactly who they are, where they're from, what type of person they are. Is that serious? Yes, it is that serious. What high school did you go to? I have to know. How do I know? What person am I talking to? What type of person I'm working with? I would legit know exactly everything about you if I ask what high school you went to. Yes, it is that important. So because people went to schools close to their neighborhoods, that's how you know exactly who they are. In New Orleans, there are law required children to attend school in their district. My target audience in this archive is people that's interested in local Black history in the city of New Orleans. I want to give people an inside look of what Black education was like during segregation. Also breaking down the history of historical New Orleans school crisis that made national news in November 1960. This crisis shaped the school system because there are some schools that are integrated and later became predominantly Black. So how did this all started? So back in 2021, I had a cousin, me and my cousin, we was just, I think this was like post-COVID. We was just in a house bored. We was just looking around, and I decided to go on ancestry.com. So when I went on ancestry.com, I ended up finding my grandmother on ancestry.com back in 2021. She graduated from George Washington Carver class of 1965. This is her picture. This is her. Some people say we look alike. You know, I got her face, of course. Gorgeous. And I was able to find these pictures, these black and white pictures of my grandmother and her class of 1965. I've been fascinated ever since, ever since I found my grandmother. I was just fascinated of just looking for stuff. And this was my grandmother last picture that she took. She died in February in 2018. But that's the last picture I took of my grandma. That was her before she passed away. Okay, so how researchers can use this collection. Researchers can explore the history of Black high schools in New Orleans by using both the digital tools and in-person resources provided by archives. Users can begin by searching the online catalog to locate photographs, yearbooks, administrative records, oral histories, and student publications from schools such as McDonald 35, Booker T. Washington, and other historical institutions. Digital collections such as scanned documents and recorded interviews are available online 24/7 for remote researchers who may also submit questions through the archive reference email. Staff are available to assist with locating materials and understanding school histories and navigating restricted items such as student records. Rather visiting in person or online, users can conduct thorough research on the educational experience, community impact, and historical legacy of New Orleans Black high schools. I highly encourage researchers to make an appointment to New Orleans Historical Collections, Genealogy at New Orleans Public Library, and Louisiana State Archives. And there's another website called Digital Louisiana Libraries. I think Caitlin had introduced me to. They may or may not have, but you'll be surprised what you can find. And also, I'm pretty sure Courtney had put it in the chat where you could be able to look at my presentation. You guys can click this website where I find these yearbooks. This website is specifically for Black high school yearbooks in the state of Louisiana before the 1970s. So not only did they have New Orleans, they have all parishes in the state of Louisiana. So if you have any loved ones that are you trying to look for back at their high schools, you could be able to find them on this website. It's a very cool website. I highly encourage it. At the end of this presentation, I might even click on it to go back. But you guys can find any historical Black high school yearbook in the state of Louisiana before 1970s on this website. It is really cool. It is really amazing. I found so much information with it, and I'm excited to share you guys today. All righty. So NOLA Public Schools. These are NOLA Public Schools as of right now. Mission provide environment where diverse learning achieves success and fulfilling futures. So these two are currently over New Orleans Public Schools today. So what I'm going to show you is what the archive looked back then. Sorry, a little technical difficulties. All righty. This is introducing myself. Oh, I kind of didn't really introduce too much of myself, but that's totally fine. I think I have a lot in this archive, y'all. So I kind of like want to move a little bit and not to talk too much about myself. So high schools during segregation. The high schools listed are accessible for African-American students during the era of segregation. Typically, students attended to schools nearest to their residence as mandated by law, which applied to both public and private institutions. The final two schools on the list is Gilbert Academy and Gaudet High School. They were closed during the segregation period. So the last two that I'm going to show y'all were actually closed. I'm going to tell y'all the story of how they were closed. So what I'm going to disclose is the infamous McDowell 35, St. Augustine, St. Mary's Academy, Joseph S. Clark, Booker T. Washington, Walter L. Corn, George Washington Carver High School, Xavier University Preparatory School, and L.B. Landry High School. All right, so let's get this started. McDowell 35 Senior High School, first African-American public school in the state of Louisiana. Shout out to 35. I actually found the most oldest class of 1928. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the first class of McDowell 35. It's very nostalgic. I love all of the pictures, all of the frames that they have to it. The design is amazing. I think what I liked about 35 is how much history that they have. And it's just amazing about this school and how they shaped history of all Black high schools in New Orleans. It was established in 1917, which I think is very, very interesting. It is amazing how this school just was basically like the first school ever in the state of Louisiana. And that's what I love about it, because this school actually inspired other Black historical high schools later on. And it was founded by the Color of Education Alliance, which I really like the most. Moving right along, Booker T. Washington High School. Two of my brothers graduated from this high school. Of course, they're younger in like 2018, 2020. 2020, my brother graduated from Booker T. Washington, and I had a father that went to Booker T. Washington as well. So this public school was established in 1942. It was the first public school to serve African Americans from uptown area, founded by Orleans Parish School. So I also have class of 1953. These are their yearbooks. Pretty nice, pretty black and white. I love the hairstyles. I love the smiles, and you could definitely see that this was way back in time. And I love that it serves the uptown area. But another one, a school that served the uptown area, was Walter L. Corn High School. It was established in 1949. First graduate class was 1953. Became the second school to open for African Americans in the uptown neighborhood area, founded by Orleans Parish School Board. Fun fact, before the school became predominantly Black high school, it was predominantly white elementary school called the Edward Benjamin Kreutznit. I probably said this wrong. I think this is a German name, but it was a predominantly white elementary school before it became a historically Black high school. I really enjoyed looking at their pictures. Walter L. Corn had a really nice history, and I really liked it. That's a baseball team in 1953. Moving right along, Joseph S. Clark, established in 1947. School served colored students in the 6th and 7th Ward Treme neighborhood, founded by Orleans Parish School Board. Fun fact, the school had two separate buildings. One was called the main building, and the other one was called in the annex. My aunt graduated in this school in the 80s. What I have right now is class of 58. Class of 58. What I like about Joseph S. Clark, they have a really, really strong alum as well. Very, very strong alum. All right, moving along to St. Mary's Academy. This is class of 1934, established in December 3rd, 1867. First African-American Catholic school in New Orleans, founded by the Sister of the Holy Family. Fun fact about this school is that it was one of the oldest Black Catholic schools in the country. Of course, this is an all-girls school. It's an all African-American girls school. It's still here to this day. It is on Chef. It's in the East area. And I really like about this school, it's the oldest, and it's also have been traditional ever since in the beginning of time, and it's still holding on to this day. All right, Xavier University Preparatory School. So this is like Xavier University High School. This was established in 1915, founded by the St. Catherine Dirickson and the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. Fun fact, it was co-ed until 1971. The school then became a single-sex school that served a diverse group of young ladies in grades of 9th through 12th grades. So it was co-ed at first, which I thought was very interesting because when I was coming up, I remember when I was in the 8th grade, I took the LEAP test with the girls at Xavier Prep. I went to Sophie B. Wright when I was in the 8th grade, and their school was actually being closed down. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what happened. But I know that they was being closed down. I remember there was an all-girls school, and it's now 2026, last year of 2025. I'm pretty sure that their school has now reopened. So shout out to Xavier University Preparatory School. Y'all are back, and I really appreciate you guys fighting for y'all school and bringing y'all school back. I will never forget that memory with them. Moving right along, St. Augustine High School, class of 1955 that I have, established in 1951, founded by Society of St. Joseph and Sacred Heart. St. Augustine High School was designated for the education of young men from African-American families, with majority of the 7 ward residents. Here is their band. Fun fact about this St. Aug High School, they was the first Black band to march in Mardi Gras. They was the first Black band to march during segregation around Mardi Gras time, and I will always love St. Aug for that. Moving right along, L.B. Landry in high school. This is across the river in the West Bank. They was my favorite pictures. They have really nice pictures. This is the seniors class of 1955. L.B. Landry definitely had a really, really nice set of pictures. I loved doing their research. It was established in October 26, 1938, but at first it was an elementary school. In 1952, they became a junior/senior high school, catered to the students in Algiers area. Last but not least, I have George Washington Carver High School. I have class of 1962, established in 1958, founded by Orleans Parish School Board, rooted in the Zion neighborhood, catered to students in the Upper Ninth Ward. Carver original building was designed by Curtis and Davis architects, the same architects that built the Superdome, which is amazing. This right here, he was the principal. He was a classic. He was one of the biggest in the Upper Ninth Ward, principal of called George Washington Carver. I've heard of him a lot. Fun fact, most majority of my family graduated from George Washington Carver, and I am myself graduated from George Washington Carver. Shout out to class of 2017. It will be next year will be 10 years, which is very interesting. So since I have a lot, I'm definitely going to talk a little bit about the 2 schools that were shut down during this time. Gilbert Academy. So Gilbert Academy was established in 1935. It was closed in 1949. The school was built in 1888. It was also served to the building of New Orleans University. Founded by Methodist Episcopal Church, Gilbert Academy had grown from being an orphanage in Baldwin, Louisiana for Black children from the Civil War to a premier private schools for Blacks in history. Not so fun fact, this school was located in St. Charles Avenue. During the time, many white uptimers did not want Black children in that area, so they pressured the church to sell the property. All right, so this is Gaudet High School. Gaudet High School was founded by Francis Joseph Gaudet, established in 1902, served as a boarding school located in Gentilly Road. The school closed in 1951. Back history was Frances Gaudet was the first woman to advocate for juvenile prisoners. When her home could no longer accommodate the children in her care, she purchased 105 acres of land. This property later became an orphanage to supporting Black excellence. So Gaudet was the principal for the school until 1921. She later sold it to the Protestant Episcopal Church of Louisiana. So these are the 2 schools that were closed down during segregation time. Now, I know I probably will be running out. So I probably won't have as much I probably won't have as much time to talk about the New Orleans Crisis Collection, but I will also just give like a rundown. Of course, this was Brown versus Board of Education. I have found a lot of Times-Picayune newspapers of what was going on during this time. Shout out to Ruby Bridges. Shout out to Leanna Tate. Leanna Tate is still living to this day, and she is still fighting for all these parish schools. Tessie Proves, Gail Antine. I'm so sorry if I say these names wrong, but these are all three of these women. They were also along with Ruby Bridges during this time to desegregate schools. I have pictures from during this time. I got them from Getty Images, still have the newspapers. And this was a very rough time in the city of New Orleans. This was so big to the point where it had to call National Guards. It was so many lawsuits that was filed. President of Orleans Parish, he was definitely under pressure of, they wanted to threaten him to not integrate schools, and he had a lot of lawsuits. It was a lot going on. Before I even close this out, I really do want to have a shout out to Judge J. Skelly Wright. Shout out to Loyola University Law. They had done a big presentation for him. I just want to say he is the biggest judge in the state of Louisiana. Fun fact about him, Judge Wright was the man. He was responsible for a lot of desegregation in Louisiana. He desegregated schools, city park pools, LSU law schools, even sports events. Judge Wright was opponent and confirmed by the United States Court of Appeals of the District of Columbia and signed by President John F. Kennedy. So shout out to Loyola University Law for displaying him and displaying all of his work and what he have done for the Black community and for others in the state of Louisiana. So as we go by, I'm going to show one movement picture. It's basically like a little movement picture of what was going on during that time. I have found this from a digital library, Georgia. And this right here is a movement of what was going on during this time of the kids are actually entering the schools. So I hope you guys can be able to listen to this. If not, here's just the movement of what's going on, okay? And I think I have it. Hello, Dr. Hershey. All righty. Try to move as much as I can and fast as I can. All right, here we go.
No violence, but plenty of vocal abuse from segregationist spectators outside.
And there were Black people that was out cheering.
Federal marshals make sure no harm came to the children or their parents as they entered and left school. And the noise wasn't all one-sided. Even integration took place without trouble. School bell rang.
So yeah, all righty. So shout out to Georgia Digital Live. Yes, that just shows a real digital Gekera. All right, let's move right along. So fun fact about this project, I found my grand aunt. So earlier during this project, I told you guys that I found my grandmother. Well, I also found my grandmother's sister, Bobby. So she is George Washington Carver class of 1962 alumni. There is her, and she was a teenager on the left corner. And also, this is a picture of her now. This is a picture of her taken September 2025. This is my auntie Bobby holding her great niece, Joy. She is now 81 years young, with 2 sons, 6 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. So what I've done was an oral history of with my great aunt, and she done an amazing job. Thank God for technology because she doesn't allow visitors at her house at a certain time. That's just her. And I'm going to let you guys listen to her oral history by closing this up, okay? I just want to talk about during that time, during segregation, schools during segregation time.
Well, it's not really much to tell because we knew it was segregation.
Mm-hmm.
We knew white folk controlled the money, the finance, and they controlled everything that dealt with finance, the buildings, the restaurants, and all of that. And Black not allowed in white places. We knew that. And so it was a way of life. We became accustomed to it until we got older in high school, perhaps, and started realizing that we need to do something about it. And then
Mm-hmm.
um, Dr. King came about. Well, first was Rosa Parks was not wanting to give a seat up, but prior to that time, we gave our seat up many times before that happened. When white got on the bus and the colored laminated marker was in front you in the front of the seat, all they would do is pick it up when say a word, pick it up. And
Wow.
when they pick it up in front of you, that means you have to get up and
Mm-hmm.
go find a seat if there was a seat. And we lived like that. And so it was like that until when Kennedy came about and started advocating along with King for equal rights. But we, most of us, didn't rock the boat because we didn't want to go to jail. We didn't want to be hurt because if you went to jail, the chances are it'd be a lot to get out because white folk
Mm-hmm.
had the power back then. They had
Mm-hmm.
control, and that's how it was. Now, when I finished high school, of course, I finished high school in '62.
Mm-hmm.
Integration had not come about as far as that, not till 65, 67 around
Mm.
time. But we just went about our business and knowing that in order for us to make it in life, that we had to be degreed because the doors were not open for blacks, and you had to be degreed. And we just assumed that once we got our degree, we relocate somewhere else to where there was integration wasn't so prominent. In some states, it was it was better. You get better breaks as far as,
Mm-hmm.
but I had a happy life. Childhood. I I mean, we got accustomed to going to the window and being served. We got accustomed to going where it said colored only. We
Mm-hmm.
just did it. And we
Right.
just did it. Then when Rosa came along and King became more visible, and then that's when a greater awakening more or less took place, and we began to get more involved in the movement, and the movement existed until, as you know, until
Mm-hmm.
67, 68, something like no King was killed in 68. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm thinking about, yeah, yeah. But anyway, that's the way it was. And so when I finished school and started teaching, of course, civil rights had been enacted. And I taught kids that were white and black in the same class. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pause that one. She, but this is my presentation. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna definitely say my aunt is 81. I'm pretty sure she's gonna be 82, and it was nighttime. But she showed me a little bit. She talked a little bit of her experience, and I'm just happy I'm able to share what I love and share what I do. I've been obsessed with African American history ever since I was a little girl. I guess that's why I want to become a librarian as well. And archive has always been a hobby to me. And doing digital archive is even more of the next big thing as a Generation Z librarian. But this is it. I hope I was able to show y'all everything. I try to be on time so you guys can be able to ask me as many questions as y'all like. And yeah, it's 11:34, so let's just move right along.
Yes, thank you so much. That was so informative. You did such a good job on that website. And thanks for sharing it with us so we can click along like I was clicking. There's so much information in there. So great job, especially with that being a hobby. I mean, it's so easy to get into genealogy research. If anyone has any questions, okay, Will, and then Courtney will keep an eye on the chat for your questions. So go ahead, Will.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing this, Jakira. My question is if you've heard from anyone who found your website and emailed you through the link you have up there.
To be honest, no. And that's why I'm so excited to do this. And another thing is I should have said in the beginning, shout out to Louisiana Studies Conference at Northwestern University, Louisiana. I will be doing the same presentation in September the 12th. So I'm just now, this is like my first presentation that's showing it to everyone. So I hope once people see this and they recognize some faces like, oh, so actually, this right here is just the start, William. So maybe you can ask me that question as soon as I start doing more presentations with different podiums, with different conferences, and just spreading my wings through it. But this is my very first time actually showing my presentation. Like I said, this was a project for school.
Yeah, I think it's great. And you can use this when you're teaching students how to do research, like reminding them how to go through that research process and how one thing could lead you to another thing, like finding your aunt, found your grandmother, found your aunt, and how there's this research cycle. It's never ending, continuous learning. So I just love having this real world example of the research process. And I think it's going to be very beneficial if you do take your project bigger and go speak at other universities and tell students like your research should be something that interests you and look where it can take you. So, I mean, anyone else? I don't want to take up all the time with the question and answer. Very impressed.
I was just gonna say I'll be in Natchitoches for Louisiana Studies as well, so I'll see you there.
Yay!
Look at y'all. Good job. Spread your wings. Yes. Maybe we get y'all down to Thibodeau one day.
Okay, thank you, Felicia. Yes, if your grandmother's 95, first of all, that's a blessing. And and that's crazy because I would love to get my 82-year-old grandmother to come with me with presentation, but y'all should be lucky I even had this oral history, baby. She at certain times she don't even want nobody in her house. Thank God she has an iPhone. Thank God for technology. And then, just playing, and you could tell she looked sleepy. She was dragging her words a little bit. I had to like keep her focused. But with her doing oral history, yes. I was actually impressed of how much my great grand aunt has did, and just understanding that memory and I really appreciate it and thank God she's still alive to this day to actually show her story and tell her story to the world. And I'm so glad I was able to find her while she was still living. And that is a big blessing. And of course, Felicia, please, I would also share my contact, my email. I'm pretty sure if you go into the presentation, you could be contacting my Facebook, my LinkedIn. And so if you want to connect, I would love to do that. Oral histories is really, really important because I want to remind people it wasn't that long ago. Just to remind people it wasn't that long ago.
Any other questions, comments, feedback? I am going to turn this over to our wonderful chair, Ariana, for the closing of the forum. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank all of our presenters, our moderators, and our chat monitors, and the executive board members for putting all the work into making this forum happen this year. I hope you all are leaving this forum with not only new ideas, practical strategies, but also with new connections and renewed inspiration for the work that you are all doing. I hope you all continue to reach out to one another, share your successes, your challenges, and to welcome you all back next summer, not as the chair for me. On behalf of NOLA ILC, thank you for spending your time with us. We appreciate your participation, your enthusiasm, and your dedication to information literacy. Enjoy whatever you have left of your summer, and thank you all.